An interview with author Janet Taylor Perry. Hello, it's Doctor's Dreams. Every now and then, I like to do interviews with artists. Today, we'll be interviewing sprightly author Janet Taylor Perry from Ridgeland, Mississippi.
I have 14 novels out now, and the 15th is right now in the last editing stage. And I have 3 anthologies that I've put together.
And Janet, how long have you been writing these novels?
I wrote my first novel in 2000, but it didn't get published for a long, long time. Lucky 13 came out in 2013, and it sells for $13.13. You will never see the number 13 in the same light again.
So in the past 11 years, you've put out 14 novels. Wow, that's more than one a year.
Yeah, some of them have come out 2 a year, like spring, fall. Thing is, sometimes I write the general, what they call vomit draft, the first thing, and then I may put it on the shelf and go back at 6 months later and rewrite, reread, and rewrite. So sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years to get it to where I want it to be.
She goes on to talk about her 4-book Draconis series about a dragon on a fantasy island.
The longest book I've ever written is Spirit's Desire. It took me exactly one school year to write this because I wrote it in my off time at school, 9 months.
Wow, it only took her 9 months to write that big novel? I'm very impressed.
And this is actually 2 stories in one. It's the second book in a Draconis series, and it tells the story of the character who leaves Draconis to go on adventure and ends up in America. And like 200 years later, his descendant is reading his memoir, and they have the same name. So, and they kind of have parallel lives. So to keep that straight in there, one thing I did was use 2 different fonts, and it always goes into what the person's reading now, and so you don't get the characters mixed up, but they're parallel. Very similar incidents happen to them. So every chapter has the 2 stories, except the first one. The first chapter is just basically setting the thing up, because the 1800s character meets his wife in the first chapter, and then they go on their own adventure, and he, at the end of that chapter, tells her he'll teach her to read, and he'll read that book to her as they travel. And so then in the second chapter, he starts reading some of what happened to the other guy, because she says his name is so unusual.
And now she's talking about that first book in this 4-book series.
And this is actually the first book I ever wrote. I wrote it when I was going through my divorce. It was very cathartic. I could do to the villain what I wanted to do to my ex-husband and get away with murder. But anyway, no, joking. It was the villain, so it was not murderous comeuppance. But and it is King Satan's realm, not Satan. I can spell. I guess the main character in this entire series is the mythical, magical island that keeps calling the O'Rourke family back to it. So this starts out with Aiden, whose mother just died. He's an only child, and his father supposedly died when he was a baby. And he's always heard stories about this one sailor that came home and said, "No, the crew's not dead on that ship. The crew did not die. They're on an island, and they've been changed into talking animals by a wicked sorceress because they wouldn't worship her." And everybody thinks he's crazy. This man's just crazy. He can't deal with the fact that his whole crew died. He's crazy. But after his mother dies, Aiden starts to think, what if it's real? And while he's thinking, he hears this voice, and he sees this white dragon, and it whispers, "Destiny." And so he decides to go talk to the old sailor, just talk to him, and ends up going in search of The Lost Father, which has been turned into a talking panther. The father that thought to be dead was turned into a talking panther. But then the second book, like I told you, is my longest. But this one also won the Predators and Editors Award. So people like this book. I like this book. This is my favorite book that I've ever written. I love the characters. You just fall in love with the people.
I asked, does one have to read the books in proper order?
You don't have to, because it gives some backstory, but it sure helps.
Yeah.
If you don't read them in order, you're going to want to go back and read them in order. Because I had someone who did that. We decided we would trade reviews. He read, I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of the books that was later in a series. And he says, okay, this was fantastic, but I've got to go back and read the others now. I've got to go back and do it. So
I asked Janet to read the prologue of the first book.
'Tis there. It does not matter whether you can see it. 'Tis there. I have been there, lived there. I know what is real. His green eyes snapping with authority, the stately, refined, older gentleman engaged in a heated debate with the captain of the Typhoon. Sir, there is nothing there, argued the captain. It's obvious. I'm turning this ship around. I'm taking my crew home. I'm staying, declared the older man. Staying where, sir? On Draconis. I supplied a dinghy. Leave it with me, and I shall get there by myself. The captain objected. Sir, that would be suicide. So be it. I shall be home. Sir, I cannot allow it. With his eyebrow arched in correction, the gentleman said, Captain, you have no say in the matter. I have paid you a great deal of money to bring me here. Return home and live a good life. I'm home, and here will I stay. Unable to dissuade the man, the crew lowered the gentleman into a rowboat, supplied with a week's provisions. The man carefully stowed his bags, a large painting, and a brass urn, which he caressed lovingly and whispered, The time has come, my love, when Draconis is no longer visible to the eyes of ordinary men. I can only pray that they are gone. When they are gone, I might still be considered an exceptional man. If not, I know we are within a day of Villa Linda. We have sailed through the fog. I shall die where we began. Just as the sun set, the billowing sails of the Typhoon disappeared over the horizon. The gentleman in the boat called in a clear, loud voice, Smoke! I need you. Come and fetch me if you will be so kind. On an island visible only to the eyes of exceptional men, a gossamer gray dragon lifted his head from the nap he had been taking. He heard a voice he had not heard in more than 40 years. Yet he must have been dreaming. He laid his head back down. No, there it is again. He soared from his cave, leaving his mate staring at the dust swirling in his wake like mist rising over the ocean. He flew with all his energy toward the sound of the voice. He spotted a small boat with a long figure. The figure waved to him. I can smell him. It is he. He's home. The voluminous creature snatched the boat into his talons. His spirit rejoiced. My human is home.
Hold the book up and point it at us. Next, I asked Janet to talk about some of her other books.
I guess I'll go next with my Hillbilly Hijinks series. And now you can laugh if you want to at these, but this is my youngest son on the cover, the homegrown healer. This is my second son hiding. He's not using the restroom. He's hiding behind the tree with his still. Mountain moonshine. Okay. And this is my next to youngest son, Gatorade. And the fourth one, which is in the final stages of editing, has my eldest son on the cover. So, free models, yay! But I wrote this whenever I saw a documentary, like in 1999. It was about pockets of poverty still up in Appalachia, where people still didn't have running water or electricity or anything like that. And I'm going, really? So I saw that documentary, and then years later, I did the census here in Mississippi in 2010.
You did what?
In 2010, I did the census.
Oh.
I was a census taker. And I went into one little neighborhood that, a mile up the road was a mansion. And I drove over the hill down into the dip, and I thought I had gone into a third world country. It was that bad. Dilapidated houses, just like, I'm going, how can this be here when that is right there? Well, the young man who's this character supposed to be is Mackenzie Reardon. He's his whole family dies, and he comes to live with the pastor in town. He manages to go to college, which most people never even graduate high school in their little community. And he comes home to be a doctor. So he's their homegrown healer. But his wife doesn't quite fit in. But then he gets involved with the new school marm. So it's a story of how Mackenzie Tipper, don't you love that name for the moonshiner? Tipper, who wants to make his moonshine legit, is up making a distillery, a legal distillery. And Gator, who, that's his name because his father played for Florida State and ended up being injured and having to come back to Possum Holler, the name of the little town. And he named his son Gator. He's a hog farmer who ends up getting a slaughterhouse and making a full-blown processing plant. And the last one in the series that hasn't come out yet is called For Richter, or Poorer. The character's name is Alan Richter. And he is probably the most sympathetic character in the whole series. You'll hate him in the beginning until you find out why he's like he is. And then just like, I want to take him home with me. But the four young men end up putting Possum Holler on the map. So my census taker has a similar experience, and she does the thing. She has the door slammed in her face. She has to go back. When she peeks in the blind, she sees a decapitated head. But this is about a young girl who was shot when she was 6 with her parents, and they both died. But somehow this great big man-sized teddy bear stopped the bullet from killing her. It slowed it down enough that it didn't go all the way in. And the story begins to unfold as the magnolias are dying. Do you know how hard it is to kill a magnolia? My last novel that's out so far, Ain't No Mountain. It's part of there will be 4 in these that you just have the one of. They're written, they're not ready to go yet. They're vomit drafts. But this one is about 3 teenagers who are the elementals reborn. This is the only one that I would consider young adult. The others are more like new adult because they have to deal with more adult issues. So, but this one is geared more toward 5th grade, 6th grade, that age. But this is because my daughter and 2 of her friends used to get into all kinds of stuff, and she said to me one time, Mama, I want my own book. This is her book.
What's it about?
The elementals reborn. They find out that their quasi-deity of a father has been imprisoned by his brother, and they have to find relics that will end up setting him free. So the first one, Ain't No Mountain. This is our little weather, earth, wind, fire, water. He's wind. He has to go find one particular relic, and this is his adventure. So the next 2 are girls. And it's Ain't No Mountain, Ain't No Valley, Ain't No River, and Ain't No Stopping Us Now. How do you classify your novels? These, after hearing a talk on Southern Gothic literature, I think they would be best classified as Southern Gothic because they have that element of suspense and mystery. They're set in the South. They deal with social issues, and they always have a little bit of supernatural something floating in there. Some little supernatural turn. Whether it's angel wings flapping or a miracle after a prayer. but there's a little supernatural thing in there. And the last things I have are anthologies that I put together. These are 4 ladies. I'm one of them. And I have 3 other Southern belles that have Christmas stories in here, unforgettable Christmases. They're all Christmas things.
Besides writing books, Janet also publishes them. She published them for herself and for other writers as well. I understand you have your own publishing company?
Yes, Dragon Breath Press. Yes, I have a thing for dragons. Where legends begin.
Oh, that again. That's very lovely. Okay.
And the cover, the logo is a story of its own. I was talking about my books at a little Chinese restaurant, and a little girl was sitting there listening. And the next time I went back in there, she had drawn a logo for me.
Oh.
So this was a student at Madison Central High School that drew that for me. And so it may not be what you would think professional, but that is a very special logo. But I started my own company because I kept getting all these varying opinions, and somebody say, I want all of it, give it to me. And then they'd say, oh, wait, this one little thing doesn't work. It would be like one line or one little scenario. And so, just little things like that. And I just got tired of hearing all the different things from different people, and you're going, well, what do you look for? What do you want? And those query letters, you send them out and you never hear anything back. It's months and months go by, you don't hear anything. So I just started my own company so that anything I put out, I buy my own ISBNs. A publishing company is registered. What I do is I don't do just mine either. I do other people. But mainly I format them, get them up on Amazon for people. I take 15% of what sells on Amazon. If they sell them at a book signing, I let them keep whatever they sell.
So you take 15% of what sells online?
Online, yes.
Do you also charge an upfront fee
for editing? If I
editing.
Edit for them, I charge upfront fee for editing. I do not charge for publishing. Okay. Editing and formatting, yes, I charge because that's my time. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of time on some of them. I didn't bring those in with me. I actually have some in my car. But one of my people, she writes under Barbara Best. It's Rockstar Records. Oh. It's a rock star romance. Yeah, rock star. Like and they're supposed to be a little more raunchy. Okay, that's what they're supposed to be. I read it the first time. I sent it back to her. I said, I felt like I was reading a legal brief. I mean, all the information's there. You've got a firm foundation, but we need to build on that foundation. This is a rock star romance. We need to rev up the romance and make it sound like somebody's having a romance rather than a divorce court. But it took us 10 years to get her book out. I've put out books for Marty Rappelt. Wonderful supernatural author. He is really good. It's a supernatural murder mystery. I've never met Barbara Best or Marty Rappelt or Mike in person. It's all done online and on phone. Any writer that thinks they're so good that they don't need an editor is a fool. Okay? I have an editor, even though I am an editor. So my editor can be brutal.
Tell us what you do for publicity. How do you market your books?
As far as publicity, marketing, I think that's probably my weakest point. I mean, I have done Facebook ads. Haven't really seen any results from Facebook ads. I see more results just posting stuff on Facebook, just posting. I've done a couple of Amazon ads. Don't really see too much result from it. but I've done promotions like freebies, giveaways, Kindle countdowns, things like that. And anytime we do anything physical, I make sure there are things in the paper and things like that, so people will come. I send out a newsletter quarterly. Like I said, that's one of my hardest things is the marketing, because I'm creative. I'm not analytical. So I do art shows, even old car shows. My most recent one was an old car show that I went to, and I really pushed the fact that the character in Lucky 13 restores old cars. That's his hobby. So it tied into what we were doing there. And I sold several books there. I do the park, like day in the park type things, anything where I can set up a table if it doesn't cost 2 arms and a leg.
I asked, how do people sign up for your newsletter?
Message to me at janettaylorperry@gmail.com. Or if you want the Dragon Breath Press newsletter, which it has its own, it's dragonbreathpress@gmail.com. There's also a website, dragonbreathpress.com, janettaylorperry.com.
I asked her, how many books do you think you sell in an average year?
Last year, I probably sold about 25 books. That's about it. Really.
Total the whole year?
But I don't do it just to sell. I do it because I love it.